Guys, welcome to the Follow Me Show. You are here with your hosts,
Drew
and Dee Dee of Follow Me Realty. And today we're going to talk to you about building your dream team. This is a very requested podcast that we actually did a few weeks ago, and then
we lost the file.
Yeah, and then found it, and now I can't find it again. So we just said, hey, we might as well do it again, and practice makes perfect, even with my talking. So for those of you just joining us, we talk about all the tips and tricks and the do's and don'ts of the modern realtor. So that's going to be everything from your marketing, branding, to your, your negotiations and how to handle inspections, appraisals, and the closing table. So please like this if you do like this episode. Subscribe to us. We are on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And you can always check us out on our website, followmerealty.me. On Twitter, followmerealty with a capital T. And Instagram,
followmerealty.me, same as the website.
So there you go. There's all the places you can find us, and also on LinkedIn. So, okay, guys, let's go ahead and get started and talk about what a dream team looks like and the kind of ways that they can help you. And honestly, the best thing that happens in real estate is when you close a deal. So any partner that you're partnering with is going to help you get to the closing table as well as your clients. So,
exactly. Yeah. And let's clear something up too. It is very important that you build a good team around you that can really make or break a deal or even save a deal. Mm-hmm. Or maybe there's someone that you're working with that probably wasn't going to buy a house. But a lot of times, if you have like a dream team lender, he can actually close them for you.
Or she.
So it is very, very vital that you start building your dream team as soon as you get into real estate.
Yeah, and you might even go through a few people, the age-old saying, hire slow, fire quick. Well, the same will go with your team, and if they do need to be fired, or maybe you guys just don't work out very well, then that's okay. You want to get through the people that don't work for you or you don't work for them, so that way you can find your dream team. But guys, it's really going to be it'll boil down to, do you like each other? And do you play nice with one another? I mean, it's all about relationships. So the more you like each other, and the more that you vibe with the people that you're partnering with, then the faster and easier it is to close your deals and, to have great communication between one another. So let's talk about it. Let's go ahead and get started. What does a dream team look like?
Well, depending on, who you are, I would say most dream teams as a single agent realtor would be your lender, your title company, your virtual assistant, or your transaction coordinator, depending on which route you want to go.
Yeah. So let's start out with the lender, because so on the buyer side, as a buyer's agent, the person you're going to be talking to a lot of times, whether it's for an actual pre-approval or what have you, to just bouncing ideas off of your lender as far as some different financing options for your clients, that's going to be one of your common point of contact. So your lender or your mortgage broker, whoever is helping you with your, your pre-quals and pre-approvals for your client, you should have a very good working relationship with them. So what are some of the places that we have found some of our partnering lenders?
Most of them have been online.
So, for instance, one of the lenders that we work with frequently, he actually found us on Twitter, and he is a lender. Actually, he's in Ohio, so he's not even here in Florida, but he is someone that can do pre-approvals and help transactions in all 50 states. So that's something really cool about a lot of lenders, is that even if they're not in your state, they can still help you. And in the spirit of mobile brokerage, that actually works out, because they don't necessarily have to physically be where you are. If they're a good lender, then it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Most of them are licensed everywhere. So
let's talk about the importance of having a good lender.
Okay.
We've had many experiences where we've lost deals and in return lost thousands and thousands of dollars due to bad lending,
or set up improper expectations to our clients as a result of lenders not doing their due diligence. And it's a poor reflection on you as a realtor as well when that happens. So what are we talking about? Okay, so as an example, one of the times that I've had some actually continuous issues was with a lender that unfortunately I was not a single agent at the time. So I didn't get to choose who I partnered with as far as if I wanted to convert
She was
leads.
on a real estate team.
Yeah.
Not a dream team, so we're talking
Definitely
about...
not a dream team.
Yeah, she was on a real estate team with other agents.
Mm-hmm.
And they had their team lender, so
Mm-hmm.
you're required to use them.
But the problem with that is when you're required to use a specific lender, if they're not closing the deals, then
Or messing it up, even worse.
Yeah, then it just makes you look bad. It hinders your credibility from the people that you're working with. And I'm not talking about just one deal that falls through. I mean, time after time after time, it's just falling through. And if it's a repeated experience, then you're not going to feel great about that and partnering with that person. So those are some of the things that, unfortunately, if you're on a team, you cannot choose who you work with. And sometimes it may be a really good person. You would think that they'd partner with somebody for the way that they can close deals, but it's not always the case. Maybe that lender is prepared to buy into, let's say, Zillow lead generation or your marketing or follow-up or what have you. So sometimes people will partner with them or just go with the cheapest person, the fastest person. That's not always the best way to go about finding your partner in real estate.
No, and your lender, they should be accessible to you. So if you call them, they should call you back. Mm-hmm. It's a working relationship, and any lender understands just as much as the realtor that real estate is more or less 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You never know what you might have to do, what paperwork might need to be signed, what document might need to be sent over. There's a lot of loose ends at times. So communication is key.
That actually raises some good points. Okay, so some things to look out for as you guys start to either evaluate the type of people you want to work with or reevaluate your dream team. When it comes to the lender, communication is of the utmost priority. So that's everything from, are they accessible? I don't necessarily mean that they will allow their phone to be ringing off the hook day and night, but to a certain extent, like Drew said, real estate is 24/7. So someone who is accessible enough to talk with you, because sometimes offers are going to happen on the fly and you'll need that pre-approval and you need to make sure that they've already started to communicate with your client. So not something where you say, hey, I have somebody who wants to start looking at homes, and then the week later they still haven't even reached out to the client. Those are huge red flags. And sometimes you guys simply won't know until you start getting into the experience. You know, you could pre-qual the lenders, so to speak, all day long, but it's not until you start to work with them that sometimes you even know these things. So communication is key.
Yeah, and also it's good to have 2 or 3 lenders that you work with. You're going to have your main guy, obviously, but there is times when they're working 6, 7 deals and they just can't.
Or maybe they're on vacation.
Yeah, so it's always good to have a second and third lender in your dream team, so you always have that base covered.
Yeah. So communication is key, making sure that you have a few different top lenders to choose from. And I want to clarify something. For those of you who are just now getting into real estate, you might hear some terms thrown around such as lender, mortgage broker. They're not one and the same. So a lender is a direct loan officer that is with a specific bank. Okay, so what does that mean? That means for the transaction, they are more direct. You know, a direct lender is more direct. So what that means is that their loan processor and their underwriter are typically in-house, and I mean physically brick and mortar in-house too, meaning they all work within the same office, or they all work at least together a lot more closely, which also means that you can get the loan turned around more oftentimes than not a little quicker because everything is done in-house, versus if you're working with a mortgage broker. And a broker is just like a real estate broker where you can show other brokerages their listings from other brokerages, right? But that mortgage broker is brokering the deal. They're going to find you the best loan for your client with the best, let's say, interest rate, the best financing options, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be with their bank. And more oftentimes than not, what happens is after the closing, your loan is sold off. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the turnaround time with a mortgage company, with a mortgage brokerage, can be a little slower.
Yep.
And you'll also have to pay points on the loan more often, as a buyer. And so those are just some quick differences between the two. I personally like working with direct lenders because they can close it faster and you have more immediate communication versus the person that from a company, they have to go talk to that specific bank, whoever ends up, I guess, getting the loan for your clients, and then they have to go talk to their underwriter, and then they have something that comes back and says, hey, we need to get XYZ from the buyer, and then that email that gets sent to the company that your client works with. So they're the middleman, right? Just like you're kind of the middleman. But the turnaround time on communication can be poor. And so from personal experience, I'd rather work with a direct lender any day.
Boom.
So the second part is going to be, how much can this lender work with you as far as doing advertising, and can they pay for Zillow? So there are some lenders who will help you pay for your Zillow lead generation if that's something that you do. And this is typically for, agents who I've noticed personally that lenders will typically work with agents who have a proven track record of closing Zillow leads if they are going to partner with you on Zillow. Or you guys have already done a few deals together and they see that you can do it, then their company is more inclined to help you pay for some of those leads, go half and half, what have you, go half on marketing, or a lot of times all of the marketing. So let's say you have an open house or you have a listing, they will do the co-branded marketing with you and they'll pay for it. A lot of times they'll even help you to pay for some of the things that you bring into the open house. Like let's say, little, what am I trying to say? The food and all that stuff. Like they'll help you set up your flyers, but also the drinks that you bring in and cookies, pastries, etc.
Beer.
If they are, or beer. And actually we used to do that with our open house events, but they'll bring in, they'll just go in on the, whatever it takes to advertise and to market. So that's also a really good thing. I don't say it's a priority, but it is a nice incentive to have somebody who will with you. Boom. Now, the final and most important thing, and we kind of already covered this, is somebody who's not going to drop the ball on you. So I'm going to give you this was a hard lesson learned, and it was just, it hurt to go through. But, as a real estate agent, you're going to go through these experiences. So it's nice to hear about it through other people's pitfalls, so that way you don't have to go through it. One of the things that happened to me is that I had a lender that I decided to work with, where I gave a lot of pushback on the team that I was on and said, hey, I want to use my own lender. And I did this for, a few months. And finally, I had a lead that came in that wasn't through their Zillow conversion. So I said, okay, I'm going to go with this other lender and give them a try. Well, this person, unfortunately, 3 weeks into the deal, they ended up telling me that my buyer could not purchase the home they were already under contract for, a home in which they had already given a pre-approval, spoken with the clients, gotten all their information. They knew the situation. And again, 3 weeks in, said that the financing had fallen through because they had an FHA loan outstanding on the home they were currently under. Now, being kind of a semi-new agent at the time, I didn't realize you cannot have two FHA loans outstanding. Unless it's extenuating circumstances, you cannot have two FHA loans. You have to have already closed on the previous home with an FHA loan to then go in and do a third, or to do another FHA loan. So that's something that should have been found out on the initial consultation with the buyers and the lender. And because I did not realize that was a thing as well, then the entire thing just completely fell through, and it broke the client's heart because they were going in to try to purchase a new home while also selling theirs. And so they weren't able to, close on one deal and then go in and purchase the second home. So had I known ahead of time too, in my mind, I feel like I dropped the ball, even though I'm not the lender, but still I wish I would have known. And then also the lender definitely should have known. What was even worse was when it happened, it was as if it wasn't a fault of his, and well, he should have known that he shouldn't have gotten in over his head, and he was referring to the buyer. So you have to really have somebody who will take full responsibility, because I'm apologizing profusely to the buyer, like, hey, and sincerely apologize, we're going to do everything we can. And the lender was just kind of like, oh, well, you shouldn't have gotten in over his head. And that's not professionalism. That's not characteristics of your dream team. So, some of the things that, again, you might experience just through trial and error. But know that you cannot have 2 FHA loans outstanding. And also, there is a time period where if your client has had either a bankruptcy or a foreclosure or even a short sale, there is a time period that you have to wait, and I think it's like 2 years for both bankruptcy or 3 years actually for a bankruptcy and a foreclosure. Make sure you find out ahead of time instead of just kind of leaving it out there, and that'll save you guys a lot of time. But an experienced lender will know this. This is somebody who can help you with your transactions and not necessarily hinder it.
All right, so that's pretty much what you want in a lender.
Yeah.
You want them to be responsive, know what they're talking about.
And if they can co-brand with you, then that's all the better. Okay, so the second partner you want to have on your dream team that is very important, especially when you start to gain listings, is going to be the title company that you work with, and more specifically, a designated title agent that will be your point of contact. So much like a lender, all the same things kind of apply. For the first is the communication. You should have really good communication with your title company, and this is going to come more into play during the actual transaction, because a title company is going to be the one who orders the survey if the buyer chooses to get a survey, and basically the survey is to determine what parcel of land do they own specifically, right? So there's the one that you want to make sure that they are doing all of the necessary checks and not waiting until right before it's supposed to close to do it. And what do I mean by that? I'm talking about everything from ordering, making sure that you do the estoppel, and the estoppel is the HOA check. Are they up to date? Is the seller up to date on their dues? Is everything good to go as far as that? Are there any liens on the home? So doing a title search. All of these things, making sure that you have communication from the title company to take care of that for you, and also handling the closing. So they're going to be the company that has everything under wraps, or not under wraps, but everything.
You're talking about like legalities.
Yeah, everything taken care of. So making sure there are no liens on the home, no clouds on the title, just everything is free and clear and ready to go. And they also get the information from the lender at the end to find out basically what money goes to who. It's very basic. They handle everything, but you just want to make sure that, honestly, when it comes to them, I mean, the best title company that I've ever worked with is First American. And I've worked with a few, but I'll tell you, First American, the reason why I say them specifically is because it's not just one person that's been great. And of course you want to have a person, like a designated agent who you can go to, but like, it's everyone within that company is just really professional on it, and efficient with what they do. And not only that, what's very awesome, just from a broker end and kind of give you some perspective, they're also able to offer education and trainings, whether you are a virtual brokerage like us, or they come into the office and they do a lot of trainings to the agents on a lot of different things, everything from how to do your listing presentations. They'll enlist the help of other coaches and things like that to come in and talk to your agents about that, or to, hey, there are some new rules or new contract that has just come up and here's what you guys should expect. So it's really awesome to have that training help as well from the title company to give to your agents. And, the more information you can get from that company or from those people, the more you can help your buyers and your sellers as well.
Yeah, and also to the title company, although it's part of your dream team, it's kind of cut and dry. They're less involved as, let's say, your lender. Yeah,
you're not going to call your title agent 11 at night and say, hey, can you get me a pre-approval? So you got to have that good communication with the lender. The title company is more of the 9 to 5, and it's okay that they're the 9 to 5 people, but it's good to have great communication and have a good rapport with them.
Yeah, they seem the most chill in the real estate industry, for sure.
Not nearly as stressed.
No, not as stressed.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah. And so, I mean, again, like Drew said, it is pretty cut and dry. You just want to make sure that you have a very good rapport with your title company. Now, one of the people that we actually didn't mention in the beginning that you're going to have as a buyer's agent and as a listing agent, I mean, you just want this partner no matter what, is the home inspector. Yep. I don't know how we missed that. The home inspector is going to be somebody that you really trust to give top-notch service. Because a lot of times what you'll see with home inspections is that the buyer wants to choose their own inspector, which is absolutely fine.
If they're hell-bent on it, then that's fine. Let them choose.
But it's good to partner with a company or with a home inspector that you know they're going to give the information to you when you ask them for it, and they're not going to take like 3 days to present the inspection report. It's good to get it as quickly as possible. As a matter of fact, I partnered with like a really good company, but I loved even more so the specific inspector that I always worked with. He was so awesome. He could handle like any situation. So when you go to an inspection, especially with first-time home buyers, they might invite like a lot of people to the inspection. So their parents, their cousins, their, somebody that they met that happened to say that they know something about inspections.
Yeah.
So you want to partner with an inspector who can kind of handle that, because as much as you want to tell them, hey, only bring yourself and the people that are purchasing the home, it doesn't always happen that way. So my inspector was really awesome because he had a lot of curveballs try to get thrown at him from, again, like the in-laws or the dad of these first-time home buyers and say, oh, what about this? And when I was an inspector 20 years ago, we had to do blah, blah, blah. Did you catch this? And he was so good about talking to them. Like, he answered all of their questions while not fear-mongering. He didn't say, oh my goodness, look at this, and scare them. He gave the information very accurately. He didn't leave anything out, while also, just keeping it really professional and letting me know as well when their report was going into my clients. He was also giving me a copy of the report to say, okay, so here you go. And let me know if you have any questions. Again, super objective, because, when it comes to inspections, I think there's this big fear for some reason that inspectors are going to be shady just to try to get a deal going, but that doesn't really help their reputation. I don't think that happens as much as perhaps buyers may think it does.
Yeah, that's true. And then also, I want to say, like, the main thing for an inspector or for your inspector is that let's say that you're working with a buyer and they have some random person they Googled go out and inspect the home.
And that happens all the time.
So what's going to happen is you got to cross your fingers and hope that inspector has social skills. Hope they know what they're talking about.
Oh my goodness, the inspector has to have social skills. You'd be amazed how many don't sometimes.
Yeah, so pretty much we have a few horror stories I'm not going to get too into, but
oh yeah,
pretty much if the buyer chooses the inspector, just hope that they have some form of social skills and they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because they can really scare someone off of a deal. They can, like there may be some wood rot, which is common in a lot of places. Maybe some wood rot in the window. And, a not so good inspector will point out the wood rot, but then he'll sell them on the wood rot. And then how it's just a disaster, even though it's not.
Oh, you're going to have to pay so much.
Yeah. So, you have those people out there that are kind of, it's not very unprofessional.
It's not very professional to be like, to say things like that, especially during the inspection. Like, you should just do your job and then, take care of what needs to be taken care of. And if the client asks for any information, just give it to them. And unfortunately, you do have some inspectors, as with any profession, you're going to have people that don't have a lot of social skills. And I am going to tell you guys about an experience that I had where it was my very first contract that actually got to the inspection. And so the problem with this couple, they were coming over from the villages, and they were purchasing a home in Kissimmee. It was right on the lake. It was right on the water. So there was quite a bit of mold on the wood, and there was a little bit of wood rot, and there were some things that were going on with the house. It really wasn't major. It was very common for the area that it was in.
Yeah, your basic 10-year-old house.
The sellers had taken care of the house pretty well. But again, it was right on the water, so it's going to be a little muggy, so with that comes a few different things that you're going to have to worry about as far as like the wood restoration and what have you. They did have a big deck, and it was all wooden. So To make matters worse, they decided to go on there and I still don't understand why, but they went against the inspector that our team lead had referred to them, and this was a very reputable company that was referred, and they said, we're going to find our own person. And so what they ended up doing actually is they found a pool inspector and they Googled the pool inspector, then asked the pool inspector, did he know someone? So instead of asking the realtors that know constantly, they asked them. So what ended up happening was, because it was one of my first inspection, one of my other teammates on the real estate team came to the inspection, and he was an experienced agent, and the first red flag had already happened. They hired someone based on the pool inspector's referral, and so it was no one that we knew. For one, they never gave us this inspector's information, so again, we had no idea who he was until he showed up at the inspection. He was an hour late to the inspection, so the clients finally gave me his phone number so I could try to get in contact with him and find out what's going on. He wasn't answering his phone. About 30 minutes into waiting, he finally did, said his car broke down, he lost his phone that weekend, he was on his way, he didn't realize he had an appointment, all these excuses. And I could not cover for this person, nor would I want to, because I didn't know him. He finally shows up, and the whole time he did the inspection, he's telling the clients, you gotta watch out for this right here. Let me show you guys how horrible this looks. And do you see what kind of panel they're using for the breaker? This is really, really old stuff. You're gonna have to rewire the whole dang house.
So he was really selling negativity.
He
was very good at selling negativity.
So as me and the other agent were sitting in the house, just like, oh my goodness, he looked at me and he said, you do realize that this isn't going to close, right? And I said, what do you mean? He said, they're not going to buy this house. And I said, why? And he said, for one, look at what he's doing. For two, it was already ruined the moment that they decided to find their own inspector, because he's already put his worst foot forward. And it doesn't look good on us. Even though it wasn't our fault, it still didn't look good on us as the agents. And so sure enough, the very next day they rescinded the contract, and they faulted all the things that he said. And he said how sorry he was and sent gift cards to us. And I said, I would never refer that inspector. But unfortunately, the damage had already been done. And so that's a unfortunate story. And again, you might go through it. Even if you listen to this, it very well could happen. But that's why, if you can, especially as a single agent, hire a top-notch dream team, and don't stop, guys, and don't feel bad about firing their sorry asses when they don't work for you. It's very simple, because everybody wants to get it to closing. But at the end of the day, the agent is going to be their best friend, and they should treat you as such, because if they cannot help you close the deal, they have no place being on your dream team. Plain and simple.
Yep. And again, just to kind of repeat, make sure they're professional. Make sure that they're just giving information and not selling, oh my God, this house sucks. Mm-hmm. Or even another way, like, oh, this is a great house, hardly little damage, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But you just want the information.
Yeah, you don't want them to sell bad or good. You don't want them to sell at all. That's not their job. The selling has already been done. All they need to do is present the facts and give you the information.
Here, this will cost X amount of dollars.
No, and they can't even say, they shouldn't even say that. They should just say, here's your inspection report. And again, if they come to the inspector the entire time saying, what about this, hire somebody who can really handle it with professionalism and courtesy.
Yep.
So those are the three. Now the fourth and the last one is going to be your assistant. So this can come in a variety of different ways. So for those of you who have enough contracts coming through and you have the ability to hire your own personal assistant, administrative assistant, you can do so. But I'm going to tell you, we're not going to talk about it, because this is what we would recommend. What would you recommend?
I would recommend getting a virtual assistant.
Okay, and why over someone you would hire yourself that you have to put on your own payroll?
Well, it's very simple. The cost is so much more effective to hiring a virtual assistant, and India is trained much better than the USA. A lot of them, this is what they do. They work with Excel. They get emails.
Well, it's not just India. I mean, also the Philippines. We had a VA in the Philippines, and it worked out perfectly.
Well, yeah, yeah. So that one worked out so.
I'm just saying, as far as the protocol, like it's not necessary to a specific country, but the whole concept of a virtual assistant is good for a few different reasons. And I'm going to say, for us, it was a lot more cost effective. For one, if you, especially in real estate, because you don't know sometimes what's going to happen from 1 month to the next. So for 1 month, you can basically contract a VA to help you with your admin tasks. That's fantastic, and you can do that when you go through a VA company. Versus an administrative assistant, that's their bread and butter. So understandably so, you need to have them full time. But real estate doesn't always work that way. And so you have the luxury with VA to have somebody 1 month or a few months and then maybe not have anybody at all for the next few months. And they also really work based on the work and not driving to the office. So you have to have a physical office for them. You have to put them on payroll, make sure they have benefits and all this stuff. The VA company handles that for they're not your employees. They serve more as like an independent contractor in that situation, but they are your,
it's your assistant. You pay the company and then you get this person.
Right. And so you designate for how long you want to do it, etc. So that's why I like having a virtual assistant. But there's also the option of just having somebody to help you for a specific contract. And that's going to be a transaction coordinator, or TC. Now, we've gone through a few different transaction coordinators since I was a real estate agent. And sometimes it really, really worked out perfectly, and other times not so much. And one of the reasons, and Drew kind of mentioned it, is that, for instance, in India and in the Philippines, we've noticed that the people that we've worked with, they're a little more eager to please with regard to the work, versus some transaction coordinators we've worked with. They all worked as independent contractors, and in that sense, sometimes it would get a little frustrating because, for instance, real estate is 24/7, right? But a lot of the TCs will work 9 to 5. But when it's an assistant in real estate, you kind of have to have somebody who can be a little more available than just that. And so that's why it's awesome, because you can set your own hours with having like a VA, because they'll just find you somebody who works according to your schedule, versus a TC is pretty basic 9 to 5. Now, again, this is only for contracts, and it typically costs anywhere from like $300 to $400 for every contract. So it's pretty affordable to have someone help you everything from scheduling the inspection, the appraisal, staying on top of all the paperwork. Did the buyer get all the information in, or did the title company order the survey or the estoppel or what have you? So it's good to have it. There are some pros and cons to having a TC, but I would say as a new agent, I would recommend having a TC for every transaction. Really any transaction that's like $200,000 and above, because it's going to eliminate so much time for you having to call and be the admin for the deal. So your job should be to go out and prospect and find more clients to work with and help them show the homes and help list the home and market the homes, not really necessarily do the paperwork. And so it's good to have a TC on that.
Yeah, and then if you decide to get a virtual assistant, they'll be doing the TC's work.
Yeah.
And you'll have them for more time. And again, I want to touch a little bit on the virtual assistant. They're very vital, because anything you tell them to do, they'll do. Hey, I need 100 emails of all the newest real estate agents Orlando. Go find that for me.
Versus a transaction coordinator who is just someone there for the specific deal, and they've done a lot of real estate, which is good. So they understand real estate and all the addenda and clauses and all of that, but they are specifically for the transaction.
Yeah, so pretty much anything you need them to do, a virtual assistant. Hey, I need you to market this home. I need you to go ahead and post it on social media 24/7, around the clock, automate it, set up flyers. They can do all that. Now, you might have to train them a little bit to do that, but that's okay. The little training is well worth it, because once they understand what you're trying to do and you guys work together and you guys have that chemistry, it's really awesome. It takes so much off of your plate and really allows you to do the one thing that you need to do, which is get deals.
Yeah. And then also, to give you an example, like for instance, there's a company called Tasks Every Day, and they have VA services, and they can get pretty nichey, which is awesome. They're pretty specific as far as who you hire. So you can hire an SEO VA, you can hire I haven't ever seen where they have a specific real estate VA, but that's okay because you can train them to do, all the basic admin stuff like Drew said. But they have a social media VA. There's a lot of different aspects that they cover that the VAs have already been trained to take care of. And again, like the basic admin stuff. So that's good. For two, with Tasks Every Day, for it was like full time, I want to say it was like $1,100 a month for somebody. So imagine you only use them part-time, so 4 hours a day. That's paying $1,100 for 2 months. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Considering your own personal assistant will cost
Very
you a
good.
hell of a lot more, and not just in money, but like in time and hiring someone, posting it, going through the recruiting process.
Also, too, like I said earlier, keep in mind, these people overseas in India, a lot of them that are working with you have college degrees. That's just kind of how their economy works. That's kind of what they do. Versus here in the States, they're a little bit more entitled. You catch a little bit more attitudes, generally speaking.
I can't recommend having a VA or a TC, again, per contract in the beginning. And then I would always say, though, once you can start paying for a VA, pay for a VA.
Yeah.
It's someone who is designated to you. They are your assistant. And again, they're doing your work and not a whole bunch of other people's contracts and files, etc., like another TC would do. So that's it. I mean, that's hiring your dream team. You want to have a damn good lender. You want to have a top-notch professional title company, somebody who's super personable, somebody who will take care of your clients. A home inspector, so super essential, and a transaction coordinator, and ultimately a virtual assistant is what we would recommend.
Yep, pretty cut and dry. I mean, and it's those 4 people will save you a tremendous amount of time.
If you have the right people.
If you have the right people, and help you close deals. So that's really about it. We could talk about building your real estate team next time.
Yeah, well, that's something
from a team perspective.
From a single agent perspective, guys, that's the main focus you should have. Your lender, your title company, your home inspector, and your assistant in whatever format that you use it, but we recommend VA. And guys, that is it. Thank you so much for joining us on this relatively shorter podcast. And
it's 40 minutes.
I thought it was shorter. Thank you guys for joining us today. We hope you have enjoyed it. For any questions and comments, please comment below, and we will see you on the next podcast.
We are out.